All right, and we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, everybody is doing good today. Obviously, we start by letting everybody get in here. You are more than welcome to tell me where you're listening from. I love to hear it. Is Iran going to bitch out if Israel hits them again? Did they bitch out last time? There were 12 days of missile exchanges, and I don't know what you mean by bitch out. They literally decided to fight the United States and Israel. But I don't understand how they could do anything more than what they did. I don't get it. Hello, ACA, ACA. Is there anybody out there? Greetings from Italy. Good to see you. Greetings from Oklahoma, weed dispensary capital of the world. Yeah, well, what else you guys got to do there, honestly? All right, guys. Hello from the other side. Good to see you. We're still waiting for everybody to get in. Remember, guys, if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment on the video. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, right? If you're returning, you should have already subscribed. All right. Greetings from Serbia, Adelaide, Australia. Nice. Think Russia will do anything about the French seizing that ship? We're going to talk about that today. We are going to talk about that today. I guess we can start with this since we're still just kind of waiting for everybody to get in. I don't usually start until about 3 minutes or anything. Let's see. How did Ukraine botch the defense of Western Kupiansk so badly? Did they just forget to build any fortifications on the West Bank? So this is something that I had been mentioning for quite some time. Sorry, I was looking in the South China Sea for no reason. Don't worry about it. I was thinking about this for some time because, I had said for months and months before this bridgehead even started that the Ukrainians should back out of this area. There's no chance of them continuing to push out into Luhansk. There's no chance of them reaching Kremenna down here, which would, partially allow access to the road, which, they could push out. You can see the idea behind what the crossing the Oskal River was going to do for the Ukrainians if the Russians just kept collapsing back, right? And then as soon as that didn't happen and the front stabilized and the Russians began sort of pushing back, the Ukrainians decided to hold this bank of the Oskal River here. And it really doesn't benefit Ukraine, but they're still in a political trap where they have no ability to exit this position that they have found themselves in, right? So once the Russians had stability on this side of the bridgehead, it was pretty much over. But this is a good question specifically because of the warning flags that this should raise for the rest of the Kharkov region, right? So I don't really think that they have messed up the defense of the city particularly bad. I mean, this has been under their control for 2 years. The Russians have been just north of it for 2 years, basically, just sitting up here. I think the defense of the city actually went very well for the Ukrainians. It's just the Ukrainians don't have any manpower left to hold, right? You can say the same thing about the Serbiansky forestry down here that was lost. How could the Ukrainians lose this densely fortified forest so easily in a matter of like 2 weeks? They lost this. And it's because they had to rotate out to protect the northern flank of Pokrovsk here when the Russians broke through, right? So there's always consequences to every single action, and that's what I talk about when I talk about the Ukrainian army collapsing. Remember, the Ukrainian army is held up by the hegemony. It's held up by all of the money of the West, all of the equipment of the West, all of the intelligence of the West, and the morale of the West. If the West dropped off, do you think the Ukrainians are going to keep fighting a war that just absolutely cannot be won? No. And even though it can't be won, there's still this delusion, right? Trump puts out a tweet and morale is back. Hopium is alive. We're back on track. But it doesn't match with the reality. And the reality is the Ukrainians are losing massive chunks of territory that they would not have normally lost if they had adequate manpower. That manpower shortage is only going to get worse and exacerbate the situation. So The defense of Kupiansk didn't necessarily go poorly. It's just the management of manpower, right? You can't fight without people. And that's the key issue that Ukraine is suffering from right now. They have enough FPV drones. They have enough money. Their checks are getting paid, right? The people in Ukraine are not suffering tremendously. So the war can go on. But you just are going to start seeing, bad defenses of places. Yeah, it's bad defense because there's nobody there to hold it. It's just like the Russians had a bad defense of Kharkov in 2022. Yeah, they had a horrible defense of Kharkov in 2022 because they didn't have any fucking people to hold it, right? So that's how you have to keep that in mind. But it should be a big concern to the Ukrainians that the Russians now almost have Kupiansk. There are going to be extreme consequences for losing Kupiansk. And there's a reason why they tried to hold it for so long. There's just not a ton out over here on this edge of Kharkov, and the Russians will likely be able to move through it pretty quick. And especially once they get over the Oskil River, once a lot of this manpower is freed up, it's just going to be pushing into an unfortified northern or southern Kharkov region. Good question, though. What can Iran do to deter Israel? Well, good question. We're gonna go ahead and get into the Iran-Israel stuff right now. So I actually have a couple of screenshots here to show you guys. If you follow me on my Telegram or my Twitter, you've probably already seen these, but I'm just going to show these for you guys to see. So over the past couple of days, there have been a extraordinarily high number of flights of U.S. military aircraft from U.S. bases to the Middle East, Qatar specifically. This includes dozens of aerial refueling tankers, an unknown number of fighter jets, which were being refueled by these tankers flying to the Middle East. We also have the USS Gerald Ford transiting through the Strait of Gibraltar right here, headed towards the Israeli coast to defend Israel from potential Iranian responses to whatever is coming. There's no other reason to be starting to set this up other than an additional strike on Iran. There's truly no point. And with the recent snapback sanctions going into effect, even after Iran attempted to meet all of the requirements, the sanctions still went through, and Iran is now staring down the barrel of an entire U.S. response after they suffered significantly during that 12-day conflict, right? So that's not to say that the Iranians are completely busted or that they haven't done things in the previous months to get them back on track, but Iran was damaged. Its airfields were targeted. Its missile infrastructure was targeted. And, while they still have some of these locations underground where they can produce stuff, it does take a toll, right? It takes a toll on a country that is not propped up by the hegemony like Israel is. So Israel just kind of sat there and ate some missiles for a little while, and then had the U.S. take care of the job and destroy or strike at the Iranian nuclear facilities. I don't really know what the thinking in Iran is right now. I've been saying it for months. They just need to get a nuke. They need to go and ask all of their neighbors, Pakistan, potentially India, North Korea, Belarus, any of these countries, just ask to get a nuke. Russia, China, anybody, because at this point, there is nothing that is going to keep you from being the target of U.S. aggression other than having a credible nuclear deterrent. Iran has the missiles. They just need the nuclear weapon. They have even the fissionable material. And there's a lot of debate going on, and there's a lot of talk of, the Iranians are not going to pursue nuclear weapons. They're saying this publicly because they don't want, obviously, the repercussions of them saying, yes, we're going for a nuclear weapon now. They're obviously going to get struck right away. But I honestly doubt they're doing it behind closed doors either. And that is unfortunate because the only thing keeping North Korea alive is the fact that they have nukes. The only thing that is keeping Belarus safe is that it's being protected by Russia and Russia's nuclear weapons now, right? Like Belarus was a legitimate target of U.S. Soft power, like regime change and stuff. They were going after Lukashenko. They were going to try to turn Belarus into Ukraine, just like the Baltics, turn it into a giant wall and just isolate the Russians. That didn't end up happening because the Russians stepped in and provided a nuclear shield and provided their intelligence services to, weed out the disruptive behavior in Belarus. Same thing goes for Iran, right? Iran is in a position where they have no... I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. I don't think this 12-day war is going to look like the last one if it does indeed happen again. Then the round two, the proverbial round two, is likely going to be, I'm going to share a few more pictures, by the way, while I'm doing this. The round two is going to be a lot less impactful from the Iranians, right? I think that the Iranians have expended themselves quite a bit during the last exchange. And I truly don't know what their options are. They have tried the diplomatic route, which I've said forever is just a complete waste of time. The U.S. doesn't listen to their own words when it comes to diplomacy. So how could you ever come to any conclusion? And this is a perfect example. The recent ceasefire deal in Gaza had 21 points, and then they changed it. Everybody agreed. All of the Middle Eastern countries agreed. And then Bibi showed up to the White House and they changed a few of the things right before they announced it, which completely blows up the deal. So, there's really nothing beneficial going on in this region. And I don't know what the Iranians are supposed to do. They're going to fire a few missiles, but we saw how they got suppressed. They haven't, in the last 3 months, I don't think they figured out a way to solve their F-35 problems, right? They have to deal with these stealth aircraft that can maintain presence over Iraq and strike into Iran, into Tehran. They really just needed a nuke. And I feel like the moral of this story, the moral of the Iranian story will be, get a nuke or you will end up like Gaddafi, like Saddam, like Iran. Like that's the only lesson that I think I can take away from this. And again, it hasn't happened yet. It might not happen. Donald Trump does a lot of posturing with military equipment, 2 nuclear subs off the coast of Russia, blah, 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 blah. But this is not even being talked about. Usually when you're doing something for propaganda purposes or influence purposes, you make a bunch of noise about it. Oh, the U.S. is moving this here, that there. Go Google Iran news, right? Go see if you can find anything about these massive redeployments. I can't. And I think I know why. That's because we know what's coming. The same thing that's going to come to Venezuela, the same thing that's been coming to Russia, and what is eventually going to come to China. Right, that this is U.S. foreign policy at its simplest form, is go in, cause some sort of disturbance, create some sort of casus belli, overthrow a regime, and then put in a client regime, and then say you won. And that's what they're going to try to do in Iran. And I know Iran is big, and I know Iran is going to be difficult to do that to, different from Iraq and different from other countries, very different from even like Venezuela if they were to go for that. But I think they're out of time. I think the U.S. and Israel are out of time, and we need to push forward with knocking Iran off, creating a tremendous amount of instability in, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, all along China's border, disrupt Belt and Road Initiative, and just knock off the next weakest piece of the, multipolar world, I guess, or whatever you would call it, the anti-U.S. axis, which would include North Korea, China, Venezuela, Iran, the axis, whatever's left of it, and then as well, North Korea, Belarus, places like that. So like I've been saying, I don't know what Iran is supposed to do other than develop a nuke. And I just think that's going to be our primary takeaway from this entire event is if you don't have a nuke, eventually the US will come after you. and we've seen it multiple times in a bunch of these places down here in the Middle East. We've seen it in Syria. We've seen it in Iraq. We've seen it attempted in Yemen. We've seen it in Libya. We've seen it all over the place. So we get a couple of these questions going here. See y'all on the landing ship to Kasual Island. Yeah, no joke, dude. I'm so excited to bleed out into some Venezuelan jungle or on some Chinese beach, dude. It's my wet dream to just get drafted and go die in some stupid war for literally no purpose other than empire. Vaporization will take place on day one. Yeah, well, if the U.S. is involved, for sure. I imagine it's going to go something like Israel's going to do some lone wolf strike, even though the U.S. has moved all these assets into the region. They've probably already told them what they were going to do. It's probably partially why Bibi was at the White House. They have an idea for a strike. They're like, oh, we can decapitate the leadership if we hit here, 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 and here. The population will revolt. We have guys on the inside that are going to cause problems, this, that, or the other. And then the second that Iran responds to anything, that's when the U.S. will come in and do a majority of the heavy lifting, because we've seen that Israel's not capable of doing it themselves. Build a nuke. Build a nuke. That's the only thing that's going to keep you safe. You have to have the ability to incinerate other people's cities if you don't want your cities to get incinerated. Like that's the only lesson I can take away from the world we live in now. Or be very cozied up to somebody who has those city incinerators. All right. I ain't going, bro. Yeah, that's what everybody says. That's what all those Ukrainians said. I'm not going to go fight in this stupid war. And then they got punched in the face like 16 times and thrown in the back of a van. And then you're like, maybe it's not so bad if I don't get beaten up all the time. And then you die. So that's what everybody says, dude. And this is also what everybody says until 9/11 happens. Until there's another massive, disruptive, mass casualty event that gets everybody hyper emotional and super angry towards somebody. That's a very legitimate and realistic thing that very well could happen. And this is part. I was having a conversation with a friend about Russia and Europe, and how Europe is going to be used as the future proxies for a war against Russia. And I was saying that there's a potential that this could happen. NATO Article 5 makes that hard. So either NATO will have to be dissolved by that point, or Article 5 just won't be used. I don't know. I don't know how Poland or the Baltics or Finland could be attacked or attack and then not elicit an Article 5 response. And I don't see that as a winning method for the United States, because I think that's just going to escalate into nuclear war. You know, the second any base in Europe gets hit, I mean, they don't have any options. The West is going to have to utilize nuclear weapons. So we were talking, and I was just saying that I it's going to be very difficult for that to happen, but if it is going to happen, you are going to have to see some sort of 9/11-esque event happen in either Russia to the Russians or in Europe because of the Russians to get people into sort of a frenzy to go to war. Because I just don't think the people of Western Europe, even just economically, are looking at any sort of war with any rosy cheeks. There's no good that can come from a war right now for Europe. That's not what anybody needs. And the only people who are talking about it are people who are in the high government, which is the only people who make decisions. So I think it's going to be difficult to get the Western Europeans on board. I think there's going to be a lot of domestic issues if that stuff starts to begin. And even supporting Ukraine in the long run, I think, is going to be extremely detrimental to the European continent, obviously. And they're going to try to utilize those Russian frozen assets. They're trying to give like 200 billion Russian frozen assets in Europe to Ukraine, which incredibly illegal. And it's just not a good move. It's not going to work out the way that they hope it will. But again, in my mind, the world is already at war. We're already fighting the world war. It's already going on. You just don't think about it like that because right now it's just Germany in Poland or the Chinese in Manchuria, right? It's not Pearl Harbor. It's not, all of the other stuff that you would technically say is like World War II, right? Because the people in the US didn't call it World War II when Germany invaded Poland. That was a European war at that time. So this is a European war, right? All right, guys. Greta Thunberg going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, that's just a joke. If you guys don't know, Greta Thunberg is on the flotilla, the whatever flotilla, Samuel flotilla. It flew through it sailed through the Mediterranean, was attacked somewhere in this region by Israel, which then prompted Italy to send ships along with, I think, Turkey to defend the flotilla and the freedom of navigation. But once they got within range of Israel, the ships abandoned them, told them to not go forward. And then they have now been intercepted in this area. So again, it's an absolute nothing. I don't even know if they have anything on those boats because there's not a chance they're landing on the beach. Like, I don't know. It's just such fake nonsense to me. I don't care. But if it makes Israel look bad or worse. So whatever. More bad press is good. Yeah. It's just a joke, dude. I don't know who. Like, you're dealing with the Israelis. They kill babies all day. You think they care about your little fucking flotilla? Like, what kind of delusional European garbage is that? It's just like everybody called it a farce before they even left because they knew they were never going to make it. It's just a publicity stunt. Yep. PR stunt to raise money. Exactly. All right, guys. So we have all that movement. It is appearing as though we are going to see additional strikes on Iran. There's going to be probably some sort of escalation where you see, like previously, Israel striking inside of Iran forced to respond, blah, 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 blah. The only thing I think Iran can do is serious damage or threaten extremely heavy damage to the oil infrastructure in the Middle East. I think that this is the one thing that the U.S. cannot afford right now is extremely high energy prices. We're already going into Venezuela for this very reason. We're going to become soon the sole supplier of energy to Europe outside of, Europe purchasing potentially Russian oil through India or something like that. But we want to become their primary oil distributor or supplier. And that is not going to be possible with U.S. domestic oil production. We are going to need additional oil production. And that is sort of where Venezuela comes into. I'm sure part of the Iran equation is also about oil for sure. So the only thing I think Iran can do is just immediately just go like with a nuclear threat. Say, if you touch a single hair on any Iranian's head, we are going to wipe out the oil fields of the Middle East. OPEC plus, everybody, just wipe them out. Don't target the civilians. Don't target anything else. Just target them, because what the situation you have right now for the Iranians is them against the U.S. and Israel. They're not going to win that. I don't know. I don't care how delusional you are. That is not going to happen. They are a country alone. They are isolated from the rest of the world. It is going to be incredibly difficult to support them in any way, even if you're going to see any support, which I seriously doubt. I don't think you're going to see a lot of external support. They should have signed a mutual defense pact with somebody immediately following that 12-day war. So the only option I think I can see is trying to cause a rift between the Arab states and Israel and the United States. That friendship, that partnership is the weak link that Iran could potentially go after, which would give all of those Arabic states a massive hesitation, right? Oh shit, they're going to do what? They're not even going to attack Israel, because what is that going to do? What, you're just justifying any response against you, right? Attacking Israel, I mean, you can hit the desalinization plants or something and do some damage. If you hit a nuclear facility, but it's probably protected and not really possible to damage that. So I don't know what are you gonna? You're just gonna strike buildings in Tel Aviv again? I mean, that's not a winning formula. You have to have a winning strategy if you're going to try to come at this and come out the other side as a single nation, right? And in the same construction that you are now. And I really do think the only way to do that is to severely threaten the states around you if they allow the US and Israel to go ahead with this attack and utilize their airspace for strikes inside of Iran. I think that's the only option is target the weak link, because the US administration is not the weak link. Israel's administration is not the weak link. It's the countries around them that have to support them that are the weak link and that can be threatened and forced into some sort of submission. And that's, I truly think that that's the only way they're going to get out of this. Spoken like an average American. I mean, do you guys see any other options? If you strike at U.S. assets, we're going to bring the entire world down on their heads, right? So to me, that's like almost a non-option. I'm going to do everything to avoid U.S. assets in the region. Not that it matters, because they still got struck last time, but I'm still going to try to prevent that. Because if I can do enough damage externally to force everybody to go, whoa, 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 this is not good. This is really going to screw the entire world up if they go through with this and they send drones to all of these different oil rigs and they just set the Middle East on fire. This is going to be very bad. If they mine the Strait of Hormuz, right? This is going to be very, very bad for us. I truly think that that's the only option they have if they don't have a nuke. With what? With what? What do you mean? What do you mean with what, Mehdi? I'm curious. I have no idea what he's talking about right now. I'm talking about Iranian options towards a potential U.S. strike on Iran. The U.S. is moving a bunch of air and naval assets into the region currently, and it looks like the exact buildup before the previous strike. Iran cannot strike preemptively because that hands... Oh, no. I'm not saying preemptively. I'm saying you make the threat that if anybody touches you, if the U.S. or Israel touch you, you're just going to set every piece of oil infrastructure on fire in the Middle East. And then if they do touch you, then you go and do it. It's literally a nuclear option. It's like having a nuclear bomb for the world economy. That's what they have. And that's what they... I mean, if I had, 1,000 Garand drones, you think 1,000 Garand drones are going to do anything to Israel? How much do you think that those could do to the Saudi oil fields? How much do you think that could do in Iraq and Syria and everywhere else where there's oil? Hit Qatar. Who cares? They based the U.S. who just attacked you, and you're just getting attacked again. Who cares? You have nothing to lose. I'm telling you, this is why you have to have deterrence. And Iran tried to have a conventional ballistic missile deterrence, and it just wasn't enough. We saw Israel's willingness to take casualties and eat missiles, right? They're a proxy, just like Ukraine is. I mean, not Israel isn't a proxy, but the Israeli people, the Israeli state, nobody gives a fuck about that. Nobody cares. You think any of those? Do you think Bibi cares about Israel? No. Or cares about the people that are dying? No. He's going to use that to his advantage. You're not dealing with like logical, sane people. So they're willing to take ballistic missiles. They're willing to take those hits. That's not going to change the fight. The only thing that can change the fight is a nuclear deterrent. And I think that, lacking actual nuclear bombs, that would be destroying oil infrastructure. GDP correlated to energy use, obvious what to hit. Yep, exactly. I think, and it's not even that you have to hit it. It's just the immediate threat of it to all of those Arabic states. Are they going to allow the U.S. to utilize their territory, their airspace, to conduct operations into the U.S. at the cost of their entire economy? If you want to survive, that's how you do it, because there's no more diplomacy. If you're an Iranian and you're looking for a way out diplomatically, you're a goddamn fool and you deserve anything coming to you. How have you not learned your lesson? Same with the Russians, same with the Chinese, same with the North Koreans. We cannot be dealt with. We'll send in a special operations team and kill your civilians on a fishing boat because we want to plant a listening device or a comms device. We'll do that while we're trying to make peace with you. While we're trying to make peace with you, we'll let our proxies send a bunch of drones in and strike a bunch of your nuclear strategic aviation. That's what we'll do. While we're trying to negotiate with you in a third-party country that is a U.S. ally, we will allow Israel to attack them in Doha and then not even get them and kill a bunch of civilians and then do a 4-minute fucking bullshit apology. And Qatar's like, it's okay, bro. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. You have a bunch of people who don't give a shit about their own countries. They don't care. They just want money and power and control. That's all they want. That's all they want. All right. If you guys have some questions, we can get some questions in. I did have an article that I wanted to read. Today's going to be a shorter episode. I'm going to hard cut it an hour if we even make it there. I don't have as much to talk about today, but I wanted to come on and talk about this before it started, the whole Iran thing before it started happening. Let's do this one. Okay. So Moscow indicates, let's see. Let me make this a little bigger. Moscow indicates retaliation in Europe, or if Europe uses Russian assets for Ukraine, amid a plan to lend Ukraine 165 billion to Kiev using. I plan to lend 165 billion to Kiev using Russian state assets. European officials are mindful of the possibility of blowback as they gather to discuss the idea. Man, that's really weirdly written. So this is something that has been long talked about, the use of Russian foreign assets for support to Ukraine. This is a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea when you're a financial market and people are invested in your country, just like the Russians were. Everybody has assets in your country, but the second you don't like them, now you're going to freeze those assets and then use those assets against that country. That's a really bad look. And it really just, you can sense the desperation in Europe to even go through with this. It is going to hurt them and negatively impact them so heavily, not even with the Russian response, just with everybody else looking at their money's not safe anymore. It's not something you really want to do, right? Especially if you're a country that, is sort of looking at the whole thing like, well, you kind of provoked Russia, right? You're not just some mindless doofus who's like, Russia invaded Ukraine out of imperialistic intent. If you think that, I got a bridge to sell you. It goes into Kherson. The Kremlin warned on Wednesday that that it would seek the persecution of individuals and countries engaged in the theft of Russian frozen sovereign assets in Europe as European leaders convene to discuss the proposal to lend 1.65 billion or 165 billion to Ukraine based on the frozen funds. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov made no distinction between stealing frozen Russian assets and using them to extend a loan to Ukraine without seizing them. As top European lenders have proposed, we are talking about theft, Mr. Peskov said in a call with reporters. So, whatever. Russia is going to say whatever. It doesn't really matter. Europe is going to do whatever they want. But it is theft. It is exactly what it is. And I'm telling you, you don't fuck with people's money. It's a really, really, really bad idea, especially when you want foreign investment, when you want other nations, just buying into your financial system at all. It's a bad move. And, Ukraine, it needs the money, I guess, but does it need the money, or does it need other things that money is not going to be able to buy? You can keep printing dollars. You can keep using frozen assets as a loan that Ukraine will definitely pay back in the future. Okay. that's it's just a bad choice, and I don't know if Europe has any choice but to go through with that, and in doing so, it will have way far-reaching repercussions, way further than any actual aid that will make it to Ukraine. Let's see. Praying for a quiet Yom Kippur free of false flags. Yeah, good luck, brother. Yeah, I do not think we're going to have a quiet time for the next couple of years. I think you're going to see a lot of very, very busy activity around the world for a very long time. Yeah. How many months do you think the U.S. can sustain conventional strikes on Iran at this point? I don't think you're going to have to sustain strikes on Iran. I really don't. I think that the U.S. would be able to almost immediately control Iranian airspace entirely. I think with a few hundred missiles at several targets, infrastructure, like regime targets, I think you can pretty much disconnect the entire country and then just control the airspace and dominate, and then force subjugation or a guerrilla war. I don't think that Iran is going to have the capabilities to hold up. So maybe before the previous attrition occurred, they would have a chance, but now no. And that's why they do it the way that they do it, right? Israel broke international law, attacked a foreign country without cause or reason, just attacked them. And then the U.S. on the back of that destroyed their nuclear facilities or bombed their nuclear facilities. It was literally for nothing. They say Iran is the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world, and I can't tell you the last terror attack that Iran carried out. Perhaps the bombing in Lebanon in like the 80s. Like, I'm sure that there are other terror attacks, but against the United States, I can't really think of any. And against even Israel, I don't really have any in mind. October 7th was Hamas, who was funded by Qatar and Israel. So I don't know. I really don't know like what the thinking is on that. But no, I don't think that they're going to have any issue dominating Iran, especially at this point. But it is another drain on resources. It is another war that will have negative consequences to the region, which the U.S. will likely have to deal with for decades to come. And it probably won't work out the way the U.S. wants it to. Don't think of Iran as being the trap because they're going to somehow win the war against the U.S. or Israel. No, Iran is the trap because once you go into Iran, what are you going to do? Are you just going to let it sit as a big festering pit of hell and have another ISIS come out of it? That's probably what Israel wants, because then Israel can expand and do whatever they want. But for the U.S., that is going to be intensive in terms of resources, in terms of time. And we got a lot of other stuff on our plates that we have to worry about. So I do think that Iran is a trap for the United States, but not in the sense that probably some of you are thinking about it. All right. I am done. Yeah, I am done. That is everything that I had to talk about today. Thank you guys. If you have questions, go ahead and get some questions in. I will be just chilling out for probably another 10 minutes. Drain on resources so my tax dollars are burned again. Yeah, dude, they're on fire right now. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Actually, it's probably not even your tax dollars, because those were probably already spent years ago because we're in so much debt. It's like your great-grandchildren's tax dollars that are currently being spent or burned that were printed. Could Iran be in a stronger position with different president and not this weird poetry reading liberal? I mean, I don't know. It's the supreme leader who doesn't want a nuke. If he said, hey, start developing a nuke, and they started developing it, I don't think the president really matters. The president would have to deal with that new reality that they are now a nuclear state. Do you think we will see an attack on Iran and Venezuela at the same time by the United States? Probably not. That's a lot. That's a lot going on. Probably not. They'll do one and then the other. Probably not Venezuela right away either, because we're not really staged for that yet. There's a couple of assets in the region, but nothing regime change worthy, I don't think. Is the Tomahawk talk just to string Europe along? Kinda. I mean, in the same way the ATACMS talk was, they gave them 100 ATACMS, 200 ATACMS, didn't really do anything. So, yeah. Question. I missed in the conversation. Will the U.S. ever actually put boots on the ground in Iraq? Don't we still have boots on the ground in Iraq? Do you mean Iran? Probably not. Probably won't be necessary. Do I think this attack will be similar or will it be more asymmetrical? No, it'll probably be the exact same. It'll probably be the exact same. It'll probably start with Israel assassinating somebody in Iran. That evokes an Iranian response. The Iranian response is taken on the chin, and then they get to do whatever they want. You can't fall into that. That's the trap, right? Like I'm telling you, unless you literally go after like Israel's desalinization plants or something, because people will say, well, then Israel can play the victim card. Yeah, they've been doing that since 1945, dude. They're going to keep playing the victim card no matter what. They play the victim card when they start shit. They played the victim card when they struck Doha. They're acting like because October 7th, they had to go and commit an international crime and an international embarrassment, or what should be an international embarrassment for the United States. But it's not. So, yeah, they're going to play the victim. That's what they're going to do. You might as well just go for it, right? But again, I still don't even think that that's going to be enough to deter anything. So, like I said, the nuclear option, go for every piece of oil infrastructure in the Middle East. Question. Super chat stopped working. What is your ETA for the attack? 2 to 4 weeks. You'll start to see the escalation in 2 to 4 weeks with how the assets have been moved into the region. Can Iran get North Korea to station their nuclear? It's just not like geographically feasible. They should just be given nukes. Like, that's what they should be asking for. Can we please have schematics for a nuclear weapon? Can we please just have a nuke? Just give us 3 nukes. So we have one to test, a second one to test if it's needed, and then a third one to defend ourselves. And then we'll start producing our own nuclear weapons. That's what I would say. Because the second they detonate that nuke, Israel cannot do what they want to do anymore. Because then every single missile that comes at Israel might have a nuclear weapon in it. And they're not going to play that game. They're too interested in self-preservation for that. Thoughts on major Iranian banks getting privatized? I don't know enough about it to give a educated response. I don't even know who privatized them. Do we know what are they been privatized, or are they? I don't even know. I'd have to read on it. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that question exactly. Pete Hegseth saying the rules of engagement were a bit worrying. Yeah, also he's kind of gay, so what are you going to do? He every time I see him, it feels like he's pretending to be a straight man. I don't know if you guys get that vibe. I see he like has like kind of like a macho thing, but also he's like super metro. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a gay guy. That's a gay guy who's like afraid of how gay he is, and so he compensates with his manliness. That's how it feels to me. Nothing wrong with that. We're chill. We're accepting here. We are LGBTQ plus. Please don't shoot me in the neck. Let's get it. Chernigov incursion in 2026. I don't know, but something that I do want to talk about is the number of let's see, recent. Let me go over my Twitter real fast. The number of recent strikes on energy infrastructure in Ukraine. Let's see. So here we can see a substation in the northern Chernihiv region getting struck by Garand 2 drones. Sorry that the video quality is not the best. You'll see it better here in just a second. These are the 330 kilowatt substations, so these are big ones, and this is causing some major power outages. There are currently power outages in Kharkov, Sumy, Chernigov, some of Kiev region, and Dnipropetrovsk region. So the Russians seem to be much more aggressively going after Ukrainian energy infrastructure than they did in the previous winter campaign. And that's just important because it's going to generally slow everything down for the Ukrainians, logistics, just everything. Having power is very important, and when you don't have it, there are consequences that are usually even unforeseen in your day-to-day life in making the front line operable. And I think that this is the proper way forward for the Russians. I think that persecuting the war in a much more aggressive way is the only option forward for them, and just like the U.S. would do, right? Go after power. Most guys with swastika tattoos are F slurs. Scott, do you think it's a coincidence that Charlie Kirk was killed the day after the strike in Doha? I think that is a coincidence. I don't think that those two things are related at all. I think that it's interesting that, some of Charlie's talking points. I think it's interesting who is now taking over TPUSA. I think it's interesting how Israel has just completely gone on the offensive in the information front, buying TikTok, petitioning basically the U.S. to arrest anybody who, supports terrorism by saying that like Palestinians should have a state and stuff. It's pretty crazy. I think something like 700 people got arrested in Britain yesterday or over the past week for protesting and holding up signs about Palestinian resistance and stuff like that. So yeah, we're turning into the Soviet Union basically. It's like the Sovietization of the United States is what happened. It's what is happening, and it's just going to get worse and worse. You're going to lose more and more freedoms. I probably will get kicked off YouTube eventually for just saying these things. So yeah, sucks. Charlie is a Nazi? You don't know what a Nazi is, honey. Sorry, you're fucking stupid if you think Charlie is a Nazi. Nazis laugh at Charlie because he's such a centrist pussy. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Ugh. Everybody's a Nazi. Everybody's a Nazi. I don't like Charlie Kirk particularly. I think that he was very pro-Israel, and I think that he was a politician and gross and slimy, like all politicians are. I think his marriage was fake. I think a lot of stuff about that whole TPUSA organization. I think it's just a propaganda outlet. I think that he was literally being prepared, coddled, whatever you want to call it, whatever the word is, groomed for political office later on, or at least a very powerful propaganda tool for the future. I think that I think that the issue that Charlie Kirk ran into is that his base is just completely against Israel. And it's basically anybody under the age of 40 in the US now is pretty woken up to the idea of what's going on. So, yeah. Yes, I do, idiot. Well, the good thing is nobody fucking asked you anything. Nobody cares about your dumb ideas. See, that's the thing about everybody in this chat is they all have stupid ideas, right? We just don't go blurting them out because, you know, you're going to get made fun of. So thanks for tuning in, though. A white supreme is a Nazi and a taco supreme is a Mexican. What are you talking about? He didn't even think that he didn't even talk about like superiority or anything. What are you talking about? It's like people that have never actually watched any of the content and then just have like ideas based off of like a 3-second social media clip where he said something bad about African Americans or something like that. It's like, come on, dude. She may be a bot. That's fine. I'll argue with bots. That's our lives are soon just going to become arguing with AI. I'm going to have an AI girlfriend and she's going to suck so bad and I'm going to be just wanting out of the relationship, but I can't because she's in the back of my skull. Get ready, boys. The future is here. All right, guys. I'm going to bounce out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate all of your questions, all of your comments. Remember, if you wish to support my channel, you can always do so by clicking that like button, turning on that bell, clicking subscribe, whatever you haven't done, leaving a comment. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in today. I'm trying to do more of these live streams more frequently, so they might be a little bit shorter, 50 minutes, something like that. But I'm going to try to get them in. I'm also going to do some later for some of my US bros, just do a late night stream once or twice a week. So be on the lookout for that. Sorry, Euro bros. I appreciate you all so much. Go buy me a coffee if you guys want to. All of the money you guys donate through Super Chat, everything. I don't take any of that money. I don't need any of that money. That money is going to go directly back into Calibrated, back into the setup and everything. So if you do wish to support the channel and you wish that the content would get better because it's kind of shitty right now because I don't do anything with it, think about supporting me. But if not, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will try to see you on Saturday, I believe, for a live stream. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.